There, we are now live.
Welcome to our second live stream event. We got so much positive response from last event, so this time we will have it together with our partner Antler. My name is Clara and I'm part of the Ventures team. Today's agenda, we will start with Antler. They're going to talk about how you get from a grand idea to build a successful startup. And then we will hear Joachim and Johan from Ventures talk about how to build your MVP. And then it's time for a Q&A in the end. So please comment your questions during the event and you do it on the right side in the chat box. And if you want to get in touch with Ventures or Antler, you can find information in the info box below. And yes, I think that's all for me now. So I hand over to Victoria from Antler.
Okay, nice. Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me. All right, I'm trying to share my screen. Um, okay, so hopefully you can hear me. But okay, it's really good to. I can't see all of you, but it's great to have you all here. And I know these are like difficult times for us all in different ways. So we're very happy to keep sharing these inspiring talks online with you. And it's also really great to do this together with the Ventures. So I'm going to talk a bit more about Antler and who we are and why we do what we do. So, we are an early stage venture capital firm and startup generator, and we invest in early stage tech companies and support founders to make their vision and their dreams of starting their own company possible. And I'm going to start off with this saying that the opportunities to positively impact the world are greater now than ever before. And I would say that this statement is true, especially during times like this. COVID-19 will certainly affect the startup landscape, and it already is for what we can see. But those founders who can adapt to the situation will come out stronger in the end. And therefore, we're very committed to keep supporting the building of startups during these times. So, as an entrepreneur, you have the ability to truly shape the planet. And up to 50% of people in different metropolitan areas, such as Stockholm, for example, would like to start their own companies. But in reality, only a fraction of these people end up starting their companies and building a startup. So there is a very big difference between the people who want to start a company, and many of these people should, but very few of them actually end up doing so. And we've found that there are a couple of thresholds into starting your own company, which is, for example, the co-founder part. So who should I start this company with? And then we also have the financial support in that early phase of when you're trying to find your co-founder. So, with this information, we looked further into the startups that actually do start up and who succeed and who fail. And the ones who fail, for what are the reasons for them failing? And we saw that many of them fail for the wrong reasons. And this often had to do with financing, also with the team not being the right team to solve that particular task, and that the domain expertise wasn't there within the team. So, with these insights in mind, our founder Magnus went to create the Antler model 3 years ago. And the Antler model started in Singapore for the and we saw that by lowering the hurdles into entrepreneurship through the financial incentives and by supporting a founding team early, considering the financial aspects, but also in finding the right co founder, we can enable and unleash the potential of great entrepreneurs in the Southeast Asian markets. So, this model worked so well that Magnus and the team decided to bring it to Europe as well. And we started in Stockholm and then Amsterdam and moreover then London. So we saw that the model was very popular here as well. And the same kind of product it had the same kind of product market fit, and that many people wanted to build their companies through Antler. So we continued growing into other continents, including America and further Asian markets, and then also into Africa in Nairobi and Australia in Sydney. So, to tell you a bit more about the Antler model, it's based on the founders. And this is because we're convinced and we see that the best startups are built around right teams that consist of really strong founders who also complement each other. So, to be a part of the Antler experience, you apply as an individual. And in some cases, you can also apply as a team if you already have your co founder. And you first go through a process with us where we screen and discuss to make sure that you are the right person to join Antler. And we accept around 4 to 5% of the applicants into the Antler program. And after that, the whole Antler experience starts. So it's a 6-month program, which consists of two parts. The first part is the team building and ideation part, and the second part is the company building. So in the first few weeks, the teams are formed, and the constellation of founders who decide to work together to solve a problem then start validating different business ideas and decide that, okay, this is a problem we want to solve, and this is how we want to solve it. And this is a very important but also intensive period, but it's also very exciting. And then going forward from the first phase, you move on to the second phase. And this is more of the company building process. And between the first and the second phase, Antler decides to invest in the teams that have come the furthest and really shown that, okay, we're on something innovative, something that can work, and we've gained some initial early traction as well. And we then invest around 110,000 US dollar for 10% equity in the standard set model. So in the second phase, it's more about growth, making sure that you can develop a prototype and an early product, and then using that first initial investment from Antler to grow fast and also that it's possible to grow. So after the Antler program, the companies continue scaling up and growing. So growing both in the home market and outside in the coming months and years. Um, and this is an example of a typical or Antler cohort. And this is the Stockholm cohort from these founders started in January this year. But the cohorts look similar in our other locations as well, looking at the fact that we have a big number of applications from people from different countries. And this is a really great thing. Just looking at the current cohort in Stockholm, we can see 29 nations represented. And of the applicants, we select a few percent of the ones with the most potential. And we look at drive, problem solving, domain expertise, and personal impact, among other things. So the founders in the Antler program have experience from working across sectors, and on average, they have about 10 years working experience after the most recent degree. So just over 60% of the people in the cohorts have experience of building companies and selling companies. And we see this to be a really strong predictor as well on founder success in and after Antler. And we also have some balance between tech founders and business founders. And of course, we bring in a lot of other types of founders as well, including people from the research field, from academia, who's done research and have come up with innovative inventions that they want to take to market. And other numbers, we also have to aim to have a good balance between female and male founders. So even though we have the same bar, we do make an effort to try to make sure that each cohort has a good distribution. So in Stockholm, we currently have a bit over 1/3 female founders, and out of the invested capital from Stockholm, we have 40% invested in female founders, yeah, and about 70% of the teams have at least one female founder on board. So this is of course better than the market average. However, we're not satisfied with these numbers, and we really hope to grow them further. And this is, of course, with your support. So looking here is, as you can see, a world map, and you can here see that Antler is a global organization, and we're really building a platform for global entrepreneurship across continents. So in the past few years, we've seen over 20,000 individuals apply to be part of an Antler program. And we have 8 locations up and running right now. And we're also going to launch in other locations during 2020. And all locations have gone fully remote right now, even in the programs, not only within the Antler teams. So if need be, we will be ready to do so for the upcoming programs as well. And just looking at investments, Antler as an organization has invested in 150 early stage companies in their first stage. And this is quite a big number and a portfolio that is growing every month. And just to give you some examples of what kind of companies we invest in and what kind of startups that are built in the Antler program. And as I'm not sure if you can see it just by the names, but this is a very big spread. So, just to give you a few exciting examples, is for example Skycraft, which is on the top left corner, and this is a company using drones equipped with high resolution cameras and computer vision software to be able to detect problems with power lines in forests and over fields. And this is so that power companies early can detect risks that can lead to, for example, forest fires. And up until now, helicopters have served the space. So with Skycraft, power companies can solve this in a cheaper and in a more safe way. And also using drones is, of course, better for the environment. And another company is X Nomad, and this is a marketplace for short time lease pop up shops. And a big part of the retail space, as you might know, is unoccupied and vacant in most urban cities. And this is partly due to online e commerce becoming a more important part of shopping. But you can also see online companies that would like to spend some time in the offline world, but not sign up for a 10-year contract. And worth mentioning is also Teamly, which is on the bottom right corner. And this is a virtual office platform that allows colleagues who are physically distributed to connect and collaborate. So, for example, we within the Antler team has used this platform for daily check-ins, co-working sessions, and meetings now with the new or during these circumstances. And this has been a really great way of adapting to the remote lifestyle and making you feel like you're actually at work, even if you're at home. So, as you can see, this is a quite broad span of technologies, but also types of companies. But most common for all of them is that they have big ambitions, they're looking to scale, they have a strong team, and technology is an enabler for them to become a global success company. So I'm going to end with a call to action and the next step for anyone who is interested in joining us at Antler. And this is that if you feel like this sounds interesting, and if you're a person who would consider building your own company and think that this is a way of finding co founders as well as working closely between companies and with Antler as a supporting organization, then if this could be of interest, then I strongly suggest that you apply. And you can do so for the Stockholm location through antler.co/Stockholm. And for any other location, you just put that location after the dash. So for London, it could be antler.co/London, for example. And when applying, it's a very simple and straightforward process because you just submit your LinkedIn address and then you're in the process and we will reach out to begin the conversation and to see if you're right for Antler and vice versa as well. So we do have big application numbers, but we are continuing finding the right people. So if you're interested, then don't wait too long to apply to the next program, which starts in August. Um, But that was all from my side. I'm gonna see what happens now that I quit sharing my screen. But I'm gonna leave up to Joachim, I think, to take over from
Yes.
me.
So thank you, Victoria, for that. I will hand over, to Joachim. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara, and thank you, Victoria. So, hi everyone, my name is Joachim Widd. I'm a proud founder of Ventures, I'm CEO and head of growth. And today we're going to talk about how to go from that grand idea to product market fit, or essentially how to build your MVP. And I totally can second everything you said, Victoria. We share the same beliefs, and that today, it's more important than ever to really take that step, 30 to 50%, as Victoria said, to dream about founding a company. And this is the time to do it. We see more problems than ever out there due to Corona, but also more problems means more possibilities for the ones with an entrepreneurial mindset. But you also need to do it right. So that is what we're going to talk about. We have a busy schedule in front of us, so sorry if I speak rather quickly. The first part will be more how to scope the MVP, and then later on Johan Berglind, our excellent business tech lead, will take over to talk about the tech part. But let's get started. So before doing that, I like to plunge into statistics in order for you to really understand why this is a good time to listen. So according to smallbiztrends.com, they made a survey and they looked at a lot of different companies that started in 2014, and they saw that 80% only made it to the second year, 70% to the third year, 62% to the fourth year, and so on. And eventually, it's a common truth out there that 90% of all startups will fail. Of course, that is dependent on the definition of failure and success, but regardless, it's a lot of startups that fail. And what makes me happy is that also there exist statistics that says that second-time entrepreneurs that have previously failed have a 20% success rate. And if you have actually succeeded before with creating a startup, then you have a 30% success rate. So this tells us that you can become better at founding new companies, that you can become better at creating successful companies. So the reasons for failing, Victoria mentioned a few of them. They do exist here in this list as well, but let's start from the beginning. Also from smallbiztrends.com. The biggest one was no market need. When they asked all these companies why they failed, they claimed that 42% claimed that there were no market need. Pretty much what it says here, they went too far based on only gut feeling. They didn't bother to ask the future customers if they had a big enough of a problem that was painful enough for a big enough of a market in order to pursue it, in order to be worthy the time and the money to solve. So there were no need. A lot of people claim that they ran out of cash, 29% said so. Not the right team, as Victoria said. It's super important with a good co-founding team. Or they got outcompeted, 90% claimed that. Competitors, pretty much they ran faster than them. Or they had pricing or cost issues. They couldn't get it right. They had a lot of costs, but they didn't earn enough money, and eventually they went into bankruptcy. They came up with a user-unfriendly product. What this means is that they didn't spend enough time on the UX. They didn't bother to ask the customers if this is a good user flow, and ultimately, well, customers didn't use the products. Product without a business model. This was more common before, I guess, in the Facebook era where you started, let's just create a nice product or a nice service and then get a lot of customers, then later on we can monetize upon them. Well, it is hard to do that, and a lot of times you end up with a lot of customers, but they are unwilling to pay for a service and you go into bankruptcy. And 17% claim that they at least didn't have a business model. 14% claim that they failed due to poor marketing. It is really hard to get attention. Thousands and thousands of startups, they are released every day. To get the attention, well, it's an art. 40% also claim that they ignore the customers, and that is not a good thing. You shouldn't do that. Never ignore the customers. What they believe is everything what is important. What you believe, well, it's a good start, but yeah, don't ignore the customers. Product mistime, 30% claim that, yeah, just bad luck. And I can really feel with companies that maybe launched a service this February that had the intention to bring people together physically, then Corona happened. Well, that is the definition of product mistimed. So yeah, there's not so much to do about that. At least it's a tough start. Another project, we call the Genome project, they did a survey on more than, I think it was 2,400 different startups. They asked the question, why did you fail? And 74% of them claimed that they failed due to premature scaling. It could be that they scaled infrastructure too fast, they employed too many people, so costs skyrocketed, or they introduced too many nice to have features that ultimately just diluted the message that they would like to give out. So these are also all valid reasons for failing, but also unnecessary reasons. So what we do here at Ventures, we fight all these failures, reasons for failing, everything except for products mistimed. We cannot really handle that. That is bigger than us. But everything else, yes, we believe that a lot of startups fail due to wrong reasons. And this is perfectly aligned with our why, vision, and mission, which I also need to introduce to you quickly. Why we do exist is that we believe that too many good ideas and passionate entrepreneurs fall short due to wrong reasons, just as Antler. And we are here to change this, and we're super happy that companies such as Antler also share this same why that we do have. And we envision a world where good ideas actually become successful. That's the vision. That's when we're done. Good idea, successful, nice. But how to get there? We have a slightly different approach. We have a hands-on approach, and we continuously challenge both ourselves but also our clients in order to transform this good idea into a successful company. And I need to emphasize that the challenging part, because this is where we excel, is not what our clients in the beginning think that they're going to build when we first meet. It is what we collectively agree on after a while, after we have challenged all the assumptions. Okay, what do we believe is the best way forward to maximize the likelihood that we create successful companies? And then we go from there. Final slide about ventures. Well, this is what we do so far, but we always challenge ourselves. We work with strategy and concept together with our clients. We have excellent UI and UX designers. We have great developers, front and back and web mobile developers that partner up with our clients. We are experts on building MVPs, and we also fight that how to get attention when you first launch your service. There's nothing magical that happens when you release an app on App Store. You need to do it properly. And we also do investments. We do sweat equity investments, so we partner up with our clients. So far we've done 17 of them. We do joint ventures with big companies, and we also have a real strong communities in order to secure future investments from external venture capital firms. But enough about ventures and enough about Antler. You didn't come here to hear us talking about ourselves. You came here to hear about how to build your MVP. So let's do that. So our methodology, how to avoid all these different common pitfalls, our sources of inspiration. First of all, we apply design thinking principles, which pretty much means that to have a customer-centric approach at all times. Always look at your product and look at your service through the eyes of your customer. Because it doesn't matter what you think, as I said before, at the end of the day, it is what the client thinks about your service or product that matters. We also apply lean UX principles, which pretty much means that a designer do not go too far based on gut feeling, just build something that is beautiful. We include feedback from peers and future customers at all times in order to not end up with a user-unfriendly product. And agile development, that's a no-brainer. You simply cannot build a startup saying the next 12 months we shall build this. You learn so much each and every day. You get new information each and every day from your customers, and you need to use that information and have an agile approach, what to prioritize right now, what to focus on, and so on. And at all times, we use lean startup and lean analytics principles. That is at the core of ventures. So I like to introduce these two concepts slightly more thoroughly. Lean startup, what is that? It was the author Eric Rice that founded the lean startup methodology, which favors experimentation over detailed planning, user feedback over intuition, and iterative design over traditional big design upfront development. In short, it is all about to learn as much as possible with the least amount of effort. In order to do that, he got his famous build, measure, learn cycle, which means that at each point in the startup journey, you start with an idea. Okay, what to do next? Then you outline an experiment and you define what would be a success for this experiment. Then you develop something, you gather a lot of data, and based on that data, you either iterate or pivot. And the thing here is to cycle through, do as many laps as you possibly can in the shortest amount of time to just learn as much as possible. Lean Startup, Eric Rice, read it if you haven't done so. It's a great read. Then we have Lean Analytics. I love Lean Analytics. It is my Bible. I read it so many times right before I fall to sleep. It might not be for everyone to do so, but I really, really love it. I consider it the measure part of Lean Startup because it's so much hands-on in my opinion. And it's all about understanding how to use analytics in a lean way. You can use analytics pretty much for everything. And you learn what to measure, when to measure, why to measure things, and how to do it. And basically what it does, it creates a focus. It encourages you to say, okay, this metric is what is most important right now, and you focus on that metric. And that is super important. In order to do that, they have provided us with a nice framework, a lot of different stages that is common for all kinds of startups. It starts with empathy stage. Here you shall focus on, have I really encountered a problem that is worth my time to solve? Is it painful enough for a big enough of a market? And have I found a solution that that my future customers probably are willing to pay for? After that, and this is where so many startups do it wrong. They launch something and they instantly think, I like to get as many users as possible. This is what is most important. And that is simply not true. You come into the stickiness phase, and what you should focus on here is to have satisfied customers, not as many as possible. What is the meaning of that? To get tens of thousands of users that only uses your product or service once and then never again? No, focus on creating a really, really good solution for a few customers, and you get a lot of customer feedback and you iterate on that. And first, after they are super happy, you can start to focus on virality, how to grow organically and artificially. You might have seen it, okay, invite a friend, then you get 50% discount on your next purchase. That is a typical nice feature to add if you would like to increase virality. After you've seen that happen, then it's time to focus on revenue. That is also a common mistake, that in the very beginning you focus too much. What is the right price for this service? It doesn't really matter. If you only have like 100 or 1,000 users, it doesn't matter if you earn like €1 more, €2 more a month on each and every one of these users. In the very end, it's too few users. It's only when you have a large customer base that you shall start to focus on revenue. And after that, it's time to focus on scale, to scale infrastructure, maybe global sales channels, how to make sure that you can attract the right competence to scale further. As you saw before, 74% failed due to premature scaling, and it is at the bottom of this list. And if you succeed to do so, then you maybe do an exit and well, you deserve the vacation. Enjoy it. Lean Analytics, buy it, read it a lot of times, sleep with it, love it. It's great. So, right, so you want to launch an MVP, right? Maybe, or is it an MMP or an MMF? At least you know you like to reach product market fit. But as you see, there is a lot of misconceptions here. People are using MVP in a lot of different ways. And why is that? So first, we need to come up with a common definition here, sort things out. So what is an MVP and what is product market fit? Well, as I said before, Eric Rice coined MVP, and it stands for minimum viable product. And his definition was that an MVP is that version of a new product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. In short, it is about cycle through this build, measure, learn cycle as many times as possible. Then MMP, what is that then? There's a lot of definitions out there. I took this one from Roman Pichler, which is a well-renowned product management expert and also author of several books. And his definition is that the MMP is the smallest possible feature set that addresses the needs of the initial users, the early adopters, the one that do not crave that much, that just love to be the first. They don't care if it's the perfect service or product as long as it solves a problem of theirs. Good. So pretty much this is also taken from Roman Pichler, and I really like this, that MVP, you start with one MVP and then you do another one and then another one, then another one, then ultimately all these MVPs equates an MVP that is ready to launch. Good. But this is when it started to become fuzzy. Then Ash Moria coming in, the author behind Running Lean, also a great book. And he defined MVP as the smallest offering that can be launched. And this is when you start to look at MVP, the definition of that, and the definition of MMP, and it is the very same thing. I can't see no difference. So it's not strange that it's hard to understand what is an MVP. But at least we know that product market fit, this is where we like to go. And there's a lot of definitions out there as well. I took this one from Tim Harsh, the co-founder of Owler. It is when people sell for you. It is when you hardly have enough time to upgrade your service to meet the demand of all the new users that would like to use your product or service. It is when you have found that perfect problem and that perfect solution that is the excellent match to that problem, and your customer base is just growing exponentially. You know when product market fit happens. To do this visually, I have this graph that I'd like to show you. You have business value on the y-axis, you have time on the x-axis, and you start with a grand idea. So in the beginning, you start with smoke test, experiment, service. You cycle through this build, measure, learn cycle as many times as possible. Try to learn as much as possible about your future customers, right? At some point, you launch an MVP or MMP, whatever we shall call it. It is the same, for in some definitions at least. And you do it for the early adopters, the smallest possible feature set that address the needs. And then later on, it doesn't stop there. You cannot stop doing the thing and just expect they shall grow. It's about being close to the customers, obtain customer feedback, continue doing experiments, have a focus on the specific key metric, set what is success and try to reach that metric. Okay, good. At some point you reach product market fit, and then the customer base skyrockets. And in the very end you reach end of life, but let's not talk about that. So let's get practical. How to do this, how to go from idea to product market fit. In order to do this, I took the liberty to come up with a semi good idea. And we're all living Corona times. We cannot do much about it. We're not allowed to get together as we did before. We are staying in quarantine mode. So theoretically, we will see a baby boom 9 months from now due to this, theoretically. And that is the customer target group that we're trying to approach here and to solve a problem for them. So we would like to found a company called Parents Rescue. And what we would like to do is to sell everything babies need packages delivered right to the doorstep. And the content in the back packages will be updated automatically so that parents get what they need the first 3 years of the baby's life. It could be diapers, it could be suitors, it could be smoothies. It could be a lot of things. I know I'm a family father myself. There's a lot of things you need in the early years of a baby. Not a terrible idea. Use it if you like, but do it properly. So listen up carefully. So where we always start, yeah, let's do it. I forgot that power baby of mine. So where we always start with all our clients is we do a lean canvas together with them. I really like this framework because it provides ourselves with an excellent overview of all the different aspects of a business model. It covers the problem. So we need to define what problem is it that we're going to solve here with the current information that we do have. Okay, what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? And we need to define this from a customer perspective with a customer-centric approach. So top 3 problems, and second, number 2 there in the upper right corner, we define the customer segments. Who are our target customers? We cannot effectively build, design, and position a product for everyone because their problems they are slightly different, and also then the solution need to be slightly different. So we need to choose, we need to focus. The unique value proposition, this is the single, clear, compelling message that states why you're different and worth paying attention to. And also the big picture of the solution to all these problems that you have defined. Okay, what is the core pieces of the solution? Then you have the channels, how to reach your future customers, how to do that, super important. You have the revenue stream, how to earn money. Shall you do that with a subscription model? Maybe do that with the help of ads. You have the cost structure. Okay, we need to have that in mind. How much will this cost us? How many employees do we need to have? Hosting costs and so on. And number 8 is key metrics. And it is not number 8 because it is least important. It is maybe the most important thing because it keeps you focused, what to track, and always define success at all times. So let's do this with Parents Rescue, but we do have limited amount of time, so we will not focus that much on key metrics, cost structure, revenue stream, channels, and unfair advantage. But let's do it with the rest. So we start out with a problem, right? We would like to sell everything baby need packages, and we would like to deliver that right to the doorstep. So what problem do we solve for our customers? Maybe lack of time. Yeah, you were working before and now you're highly pregnant. There's so many things to buy. Lack of time to buy all the things that the baby needs. Yeah, that could be one problem that we do solve. And another aspect is you don't know what to buy. When you start to look at the internet, everyone is trying to sell everything to you. And it's overwhelming what to buy out of all these things. And it's also expensive. I know that as well. You need everything. At least it seems like you do that when you start to Google. You need exactly everything, but you don't. But it might seem so. And then you look at the existing alternatives. Okay, are there other ones that solves this problem? Yeah, Mathem.se, you can buy diapers from there. You can get it delivered right to the doorstep. Yes, they do. You have some e-stores focused on babies, such as babyland.se, and you also have physical local stores where you can buy pretty much everything you need. And then you come to the customer segments. Okay, who are our customers? It could be families with kids in different ages. All these problems, they do apply to them, right? You have so many kids, lack of time, it takes a lot of time to take care of the kids, play with the kids, and then you also need to buy all the stuff they need. Well, where to find all this time? You don't know what to buy maybe either because, yeah, different ages, different needs is confusing. Divorced parents, it might be so that you had a wife or a husband that took care of everything, and at one point you decided to disconnect from each other. Then both of you need to be on top of things and know what to buy. So divorced parents, yeah, they could be a good target group. Soon-to-be parents, where everything is new. When you haven't, it's hard to remember what you needed, right, when you were a baby. So everything is new when you get a baby the first time. And you need to really, really indulge into different sites in order to find out what do I need. Now it comes to unique value proposition. Okay, I love this book. I'm sorry for the fuzzy picture here, but Start With Why with Simon Sinek. It's one of those books. It's maybe like 12, 15 chapters long, but you only need to read 3 of them because the message is crystal clear. It really speaks to you. So Start With Why. What he says, that is, when you shall convince someone to buy or use a product or a service of yours, you need to start with why shall you do it, not what it is. Why shall the customer bother? I think that Apple did this excellent. It's an example from the book. Back in the days, Creative Labs, they launched a 3 gigabyte MP3 player, and they said, okay, come and buy our really, really good MP3 player with 3 gigabyte of storage space. It wasn't a good success. But 2 years later, Apple did the very same thing, 3 gigabyte storage space, but what they did, they started with to answer the question why. So they said, okay, buy this MP3 player to get 1,000 songs in your pocket. And then customer instantly, okay, this is why I shall buy it. Excellent example. So start with why. And in our case, it could look something like this. Enjoy time with your baby without disturbance. Yeah, this is why you shall use Parents Rescue. We got you covered. Just enjoy the time with your baby. It could also be everything your baby needs to your doorstep. Slightly different message. If you, okay, what do they need? Okay, we got you covered. We deliver it right to your doorstep. It might speak to you. And the solution here, okay, what could the solution be? Well, definitely weekly deliveries of goods right to doorstep, but we need to cover that. Everything you need packages, well, yeah, that is what we like to sell. Then maybe 3 different assortments because our customers might have different budgets, low budget, a mid budget, a premium assortment. Yeah, 3 different assortments sounds good. And also goods vary dependent on your kid's age because in the beginning, well, you don't need any food because you breastfeed, right? After 6 months, you might need smoothies, and after 2 years, you need bigger diapers and so on. So yeah, goods very dependent on your kid's age. And also 2 different addresses, right? Because we have the customer target group divorced parents, and they do not live under the same roof. So we need to cover that as well. So you start to think of a lot of different things here doing the link canvas. And this is where a lot of people, like most, do it wrong. They do this once and they never look back. And that's completely the wrong way to do it. In the upper right corner, you can see there it says iteration number 1. And that's exactly, and it is not by chance it says so. It shall be updated a lot of time. It shall be iterated. You shall use this throughout building your startup company. So how to do that? Well, you look at the information you have right now, and then you start to analyze it. Okay, where do I see the top 3 current risks? That's how we do it. Okay, where have I gone too far based on assumption and where I don't know if this is actually true? So in this case, yeah, no market need. I have no idea if there is actually a real market for this, if there's a real need for this. And if there could be a real need, but our customers, they might not be willing to pay for it anyhow. Or, yeah, we shall not talk that much about cost, but I'm still slightly worried about the future delivery costs. So what you do now is you cannot focus on all these customer segments at the same time, and you need more information, right? Okay, so who to target? I think it's a good idea to start with customer segments and to really, okay, think hard, okay, who shall I target? A good way to do this is to use the Market Opportunity Navigator. There's a book behind it called Where to Play, good read. And this is just the cover of it. There are actually different in-depth for each and all these 3 steps. You can go through these in details, but I do it from this overview perspective. So we start with a market opportunity set where we brainstorm all the opportunities that we see. In this case, we include soon-to-be parents, divorced parents and families with many kids. Then we decide, okay, which ones shall we go forward with and do an analysis on, which we do here. Here we do an analysis where we look on the potential on targeting these customers and also look at the challenges by doing so. And we see that soon-to-be parents, yeah, it's in the gold mine up in upper left corner. It looks great. Also, families with many kids looks good, but divorced parents, the market is not that big. It might not be such a good starting point for our journey here. The final step is to decide what to pursue now. Families with many kids, yeah, it sounds like a good plan B. Let's not rule it out, but we would like to start focusing on soon-to-be parents, that target group. And divorced parents, well, we place it in the storage. We might target them later on, but not now. Let's focus. So, what to do now? We need to learn more about our soon-to-be parents, right? A good way of doing so is to have a persona canvas. And I've done one for us. Here we do have Frida. She's 35 years old. She's currently on parental leave, lives in Östermalm. And I'm sorry about the details here. It's basically, I took a lot of information from my wife and friends and family and so on. So I haven't done a good study here. But all right, who is Frida? Well, her personality type. She's caring, super caring. She loves a baby, she cares a lot. But also risk avert. Oh, she would like to pick the right things, right? She don't want to pick bad products. Full-time employee normally, highly educated, but also slightly impatient. There's so many things to discover. What do my baby need? Oh, it takes so much time, and she's slightly impatient, Frida. Her needs and goals. Okay, what is that? She doesn't know what the baby will need when it's born, so she would like to know that. And she don't want to choose bad products and be judged by incorrect choices as a parent, because sadly enough that happens. Just want to enjoy time off work with her baby. That's pretty much what she would like to do right now, just to enjoy. So where do I find Frida? This is super important information, offline and online places, because we would like to get as much information about her as possible. And she's also a future customer that we would like to target. So how to find her? Well, probably she's on familjeliv.se trying to find information how life will be as a mother. She might go into produktexperter.se or pricerunner.se to find all these products that she would like to buy. I tell you why in a second why I know this. Open preschool, she might scout a little bit. Where will I be with my baby the first year on paternal leave? Pre-birth courses such as LeMay's classes where you learn how to breathe. A lot of mothers go there. That's an excellent starting point to find your future customer target group, right? Let's just go there and ask them a lot of questions. Good tip. Facebook, Instagram, taking pictures of a belly, it's growing, everybody needs to see it. Most probably she's on LinkedIn still because she has a lot of friends out there, and maybe scouting a few playgrounds. But how did I know that she was on produktexperter.se and Price Runner? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And you saw in the beginning, we found a lot of competitors, right? Such as babyland.se. And there's a lot of cool softwares out there, such as this one. I forgot the name of it, but it's really cool. What you can do is Google like babyland.se, and you can see exactly from where do they get their traffic from. You can see here, well, a lot of traffic comes direct from search, so they are strong in SEO and SEM. We might need to be strong in that as well, but you can also see that 10% of the traffic comes from referrals. And here you can see that 37% of that traffic come from Price Runner. So it might be a good idea to be available on Price Runner in some way. How can we do that? But also produktexperter.se. Well, you see that increase, 582% increase since last month. It's really skyrocketing. Yeah, that's a good way to find your customer target group, because we have the same as babyland.se. I might remember the name of this later. Actually, do right now. It's called SimilarWeb. Thank you, Johan, Berglind. SimilarWeb.com, really good. Behaviors. Okay, she likes to have coffee with friends, watch television, working. How do I know that? Facebook Insights. It's a goldmine of information. You can find a lot of information about your customer target group. Super good tip. So now we know more than before, right? So now we get back to link canvas. Do we know more about the problem at hand? No, we don't. But the customer segment, we ruled out divorced parents. So let's just take that away. What more do we know? No, we don't maybe know that much more. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Divorced parents. Also, two different addresses. We don't need that anymore. So in the solution, because we're not targeting that group. So let's take it away. What more? No, nothing. So looking at this, the top 3 current risks, it is still, we don't know if we have a market need. We don't even know if they would like to pay for this. So how to get that information? A good way of doing so is service. You can do quantifiable service, you can do a qualitative service, and now you know where to find feeder, right? Let's go to LMA's classes and ask future mothers a lot of questions. Let's do that. It's a really good idea. What we get back with is a lot of useful information. And of course, we shall also ask questions to families with kids in different ages, but I didn't bother to make a persona for them right now. But what we conclude from this survey, it could be so that lack of time, it wasn't a problem, really. That wasn't the main problem here, so let's not focus on it. Expensive, it wasn't that either. Frida was highly educated, she earned a lot of money on her job, but don't know what to buy. That was spot on. And also fear of buying incorrect products. She was slightly afraid of what other friends might say if she bought the incorrect ones, which is sad, but in this case, it apparently was true in this fictive case. So what more do we know? Soon to be parents, from the survey, we saw that they answered more positively. They were more inclined to participate in future interviews where we talk about solutions than families with kids in different ages. So we know soon to be parents, that we shall focus on. So let's do that. But also families with kids in different ages, we can have it there for later, but focus on soon to be parents. It's all about to have a focus. And also we found out in the solution that we don't need to have weekly deliveries of goods. Monthly was good enough. Yeah, focus on the basics like diapers. We don't need to deliver them on a weekly basis, which is good. It's because we were slightly afraid of the high delivery cost, right? What to do now? Well, we can take away the no market need because we know that. Instead, we add another one. We're slightly worried about what to include in our MVP, but still low willingness to pay. Before we go forward, we're still worried about their ability to pay. So how to validate that? You can actually use to validate real user behavior with a smoke test, which I like to talk to you about briefly. Let's say this beautiful house is your landing page to your product or service. This is your landing page, right? Now we have like all these compelling messages saying, okay, get everything your baby needs, deliver right to your doorstep. Just press this button. It might be join us, it might be purchase now, whatever you like your customers to do. And you can try out maybe 2 different landing pages with different messages here to see, okay, where can we see better conversion? How can we speak to the heart of a Frida in this case? And little do they know that behind the scenes, there is nothing. This is just a message saying, thank you for interest. We will get back to you once our service is live. But what you do right now is that you would like to validate that they have the ability to pay and that they are willing to pay for your service, right? Excellent way of doing it. And also we found out that everything your baby needs to your doorstep, that was the best way to communicate. So let's get back. Enjoy time with your baby without disturbance. It's gone. Also, now we need to scope our MVP. So how to do that? That is the top focus right now. Low willingness to pay, we're still slightly uncertain. We know that some of them would like to do so, but we cannot go further now than to actually launch something. So when you conclude that, then it's time to launch, to do something at least to the early adopters. So how to scope your MVP? Normally you have a really long wish list with a lot of different features like create user. Okay, we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to get paid, right? A payment method. Frida, she need to be able to choose assortment from all these 3 different things, right? Invite a friend. Yes, she need to be able to invite a friend so we can scale super fast. Maybe we need to rate the products we have and give feedback. We need a lot of feedback here, right? An age tracker, so we know when the kid has become 1 year old, so we can change the assortment automatically. And maybe that's not even enough. Maybe Frida's baby was a bigger baby than normal, then she needs to be able to change sizes on the diapers manually. A lot of different features. That's normally where you start. So where to start? Well, there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but I like to remind you that we are start to slowly get into the stickiness phase. And in this phase, you shall focus on, with a minimum amount of features, focus on creating a good product for a few users, right? Not about scaling. You need to also come up with KPIs, what to measure. It could be something like churn rates, sign-up rates, customer acquisition costs, net promoter scores, how likely are your customers to recommend your service to a friend, and so on. Yeah, good metrics. But I believe like churn rate, that's excellent because we have subscription. If we see immediate churn, then we haven't a good solution for the problem we got in hand. Sign-up rates, well, it could be fun to measure, but don't focus on it because that's in the virality phase. Focus on create a good solution. Customer acquisition costs, well, don't bother that much. It's not, we can solve that later. If we come up with a good product here, we will solve it. Most definitely. NPS, yes, that's a good one. If we can get that information, for sure, ask them, how likely are you to recommend this to a friend? Why not? But churn rate, I believe that one is the strongest. So what to include in the first MVP or MMP? Create user. Do we need it? Question mark. Payment method. Yeah, that would be good to get paid. Yeah, and we also would like to validate that. Choose assortment. Do we really need that, or can we just start with one? I believe we can, right? Invite a friend. No, we're not in the virality phase. Rate products. No, why? Early adopters, they don't really care. They just like things that are new and shiny. Give feedback. Yes, it's super important, but still a question mark. Why is that? Age tracker. No, I don't think we need that. The customers don't know we have that problem yet. Change sizes. No, I don't think we need that either. Just start really one assortment in this case. And why the questions mark here? There is something called the concierge MVP, which encourages you to don't write code, be the code. If you don't necessarily have to write code, then do it. So in this case, if you go back, maybe you can be the one that deliver the goods. Then you can go to the doorstep and deliver it to your actual customers, and then you can ask them for feedback, and you can do changes manually. You can maybe change sizes of your diapers and whatever. You can cover that without writing code. And once you've done this, you launch something. Do not forget, continue with the smallest amount of effort. Get as much validated learning about your customer as possible until you reach product market fit and start to scale. So I talked about a lot of things, but the key takeaway is stay focused at all times, stay customer centric. Do never forget about the customer. Do not rely on gut feeling. Ask the customer what is important. Stay agile at all times. A lot of information need to be used. Use it wisely. Change, pivot, iterate, do whatever you need. Great. But now I cannot come further without introducing Johan Berglind, our business tech lead.
Thank you, Joachim. All right, very cool. So we're going to move on to the next step of the presentation. We've gone on the amazing adventure on talking about what is our company, what is our idea, and scoping that, narrowing that down to a specific set of features. And now let's start on the cool part, sorry Joachim, on building the actual product. How should we go about this? So let's get going. So who's this guy standing in front of you? You might ask. A quick introduction of me. My name is Johan Berglind. I work here at Ventures in a role that we call business tech lead, which is a traditional tech lead role in a sense that I participate in a lot of technical development. I'm engaged in primarily backend development, but do a lot of different things. But I also try to coach a lot of startups in how should they navigate the technical jungle to maximize their business value. Great, and I've worked in the startup sphere for quite some time, mainly as a developer, but also as an entrepreneur. So I know some of the challenges that you might be facing, and I'm going to try to ease a little bit of that burden in a technical sense. So full stack developer with with the backend and the infrastructure and the front end. And I'm also, as you might be able to tell, quite the emoji enthusiast. So you will be seeing a lot of emojis. Hope you don't find it excessive. Let's get going. So why this talk? Why is this relevant for you? You might ask. I'm hoping I can help you ask the right questions. Consider my presentation as some sort of discussion point and some insights in how you should think regarding technology. It's not a recipe for exactly how you should do things, more think of it as a suggestion on what to discuss and what to consider. Great. I'm also hoping to help you avoid common pitfalls that a lot of entrepreneurs face, which is quite common for everyone. I'm also hoping that you don't necessarily reinvent the wheel. A lot of problems in the technical world has already been solved. We don't need to do it again. We can use what already has been made. And I want to help you take the right shortcuts in a sense that not necessarily reinventing the wheel, that's a great shortcut to take, but take the right shortcuts. Don't take the wrong ones. Cool. And I also want to help you build a foundation for the future. So don't necessarily build an MVP and then scrap it and move on. I want to help you build something robust that you can build upon and you can be proud of in the future. All right. I divided my talk into a couple of different sections. I'm going to talk a little bit about tech stack, what it is, what you should think about when choosing your tech stack. I'm also going to talk a little bit about your team, who is going to be involved in building this. I'm also talking slightly about analytics, how you should think about that in regards to your MVP, as well as infrastructure, what I call the Voldemort of software development. And what I mean by that is it's something that you don't want to talk about. It's a cost. It's something that exists, but it's something that you don't want to talk about. Great. So let's dive right in. The tech stack. What is it? So I'm going to define a tech stack as the toolbox for building our MVP. And I'm sorry for you techies out there. If you decide to scroll a little bit on Instagram, I'm not going to be offended. It's okay if you come right back afterwards. We talked about the basics. So for the rest of you, what is a tech stack? So think of the tech stack, as I mentioned, as a set of tools that we've chosen to build our product or service with. So like a carpenter, they have their saw perhaps and a hammer. What we have are technical tools, technical choices. So we usually divide this into two main parts for most applications, not for everything, not for building a space shuttle or launching an aircraft maybe, but for these type of applications when building startup companies and those type of applications, we divide it into a front end and a back end. I'm going to dive a little bit more in detail to what those mean in later. I'm also going to talk a little bit about programming languages because they are sort of baked into each of these sections. You can use a programming language for the front end and a programming language for back end. They can be the same or they can be different, or you can use a multiple of programming language in each of these sections. Also frameworks, how are they relevant? They are also a part of your front end and your back end, and they sort of work as ready-made tools, ready-made code that you can use as a developer to sort of ease your efforts, to use this sort of, what I mentioned in the beginning, not reinventing the wheel, use something that already exists. Great. And I think a thing to mention regarding this, something to preface this is, as I mentioned, it's not a recipe, not one size fits all. Our companies are unique, like people. We can't just say you do this and you will create a successful MVP, but I'm hoping I provide you with some insights in regarding choosing technical choices. All right, so what should you think about when choosing your tech stack? It may seem like a simple decision, but it will affect your product and your product success, and therefore it will also affect your company, how successful your company will be. So choosing your tech stack is an important choice, and it's something that you should consider quite intensely. So a couple of general recommendations. I would say follow the community. However, it might sound pretty boring, and you might want to try something that you've heard of that sounds so cool, but it has so much value that to listen to what other people are doing and going a similar route, because that will allow you to use their momentum, use libraries, use challenges or problems that they've faced, and learn from that and use that in your product. And that goes in line with the next point as well. So avoiding the bleeding edge. It might seem super appealing to use something that a random dude has built in his basement, but it's not necessarily a great choice for building a solid and robust service for you. And as well, avoid buzzword and fads. It might seem contradictory to follow the community, but this is more in line with if you heard of a cool term or a cool product or software that you might think, I want to use this as well. Example of this is like AI or blockchain. Super cool, and it for sure has its applications. AI and machine learning and blockchain are super powerful, but it doesn't necessarily solve every single technical problem, and it's not applicable for everything. So keep that in mind. So some considerations for choosing your tech stack as well. Keep it developer friendly is a great aspect to consider. Developers want to work with something that is developer friendly, which has libraries, which has support, which has momentum. So that's an important point. This I find super interesting and something that's worth mentioning, the ability to hire. It's something that's often disregarded, but when choosing your tech stack, consider using something that a lot of people in your area or in at least where you're trying to find developers use. So for example, JavaScript is huge in sort of all of Europe. It's used quite widely. The ability to hire or find people who knows this is a lot easier than using some sort of obscure programming language like maybe Rust. It's super obscure, but it's at least way more uncommon than JavaScript. So ability to hire is an important point when choosing your tech stack. Right. So lifespan. This goes a little bit in line with what I talked about earlier by using the community momentum. So the lifespan might be tough to judge how long-lived a framework or a programming language will be, but consider, for example, React, which is built by Facebook. It is well backed. They have a lot of resources. It's got tons of momentum behind it. It will live on for a long time. That will be a more suitable choice than choosing something that maybe, like I mentioned previously, some person has built in their basement. Nice. This also goes in line with the next one, support. So support is also super relevant. If you have Facebook backing this, it will be a solid choice. But, and as well as community, right? But the main part I want to stress here is also listen to your developers. Understand what they know and what they consider. Don't use something because you feel like it. Listen to what they know and what they feel comfortable in. Great. So let's dive in a little bit to front-end 101. I'm hoping most of you will find this some new insights, even though in the 101 section. So the front-end is the user-facing parts. It's what you as a user integrate yourself with. So this is sort of the cross-section between design and functionality. It's what's responsible for implementing the user experience. So when you're watching me through a YouTube live stream, you're seeing me through the camera, and this is using the YouTube front-end. And you're browsing, for example, if you're using your phone, it's through your phone's front end. So a front end could be as complicated as like the YouTube app. It's quite complex, but it could also be as simple as the alarm panel, in which you input your alarm code in the morning to disarm or engage your alarm. That's also a front end. It's ugly, it's not beautiful, but it works, and it's a front end. So it's generally just what you face. And most of us are commonly using our smartphone to interface with software. Cool. So front end, what to choose here? We usually talk about, in at least the startups here, we talk about two sections of front end. We talk about the web apps and we talk about mobile apps. The line between these are getting blurred more and more every day, and we're sort of meeting in the middle here. But in general, you usually do this division. When you're talking about web apps, you're talking about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is a combination of programming languages in a sense. And we're talking about mobile apps. That's sort of what allows you to download apps from an app store. Yes, but in regards to web apps, we usually go with something which is a good choice. So maybe React or Vue would be a solid choice. Those are rising stars. I've seen a lot of momentum in the recent years. I'm also including two in the slide as well, the common Stack Overflow choices. So as you see, jQuery might seem like the obvious choice, but jQuery is also losing quite a lot every year to React, Angular, and Vue. Mainly, they're still big because it's mainly included in WordPress as the world's largest CMS, so they get quite a boost from that. So consider what's popular. Here I would suggest something like React or Vue, and maybe if you're building a mobile app, React Native. The interesting point with React Native is that it's built in JavaScript, or you're using JavaScript rather. So this allows you to sort of, if you've used a web app prior, you can navigate fairly easy into using React Native, because you can apply what you already know. Cool. All right, so let's move into the backend. The backend is sort of the engine that powers it all. I like the analogy that think of your software as a car, maybe. So if you're sitting in your car, you're sort of steering the car with a steering wheel. You're sort of turning a volume knob, perhaps, and selecting things on the dashboard or what have you. This is sort of, consider this your front end. and the backend is sort of the engine that powers this. This is the engine, it's the gearbox, it's sort of all of the hidden stuff behind the hood. So this is the backend. It's responsible for providing and storing your data. So the backend sort of provides data to the front end and handles all of that. It's also responsible for handling integration. So say, for example, for our parents' rescue company, they might have shipping integrations to different shipping partners. So they might want to know when is the best time to ship this, what's the price for that. So integrations are super relevant in the backend. It's also what's connected to the database. So the backend handles all of that. Cool. So backend, what to choose here? I'm going to introduce a small plot twist. Do you even need a backend? Whoa, I know, crazy, right? Because these days we can provide backend as a service. So for example, Google with Firebase and Amazon with Amplify provides backend as a service, which sort of handles a lot of common things. So for example, logging in, logging out, user management, and these type of things are very common. So they decided to provide this as a service instead. So you can sort of hook into that and use that. So you don't need a backend in that sense. However, it is incredibly limiting. So if you have a very simple application, it might be a suitable choice. Or if you're trying to develop something just to test it. But if you want to build something more robust, you're going to quickly run into a wall and realize, oh, I can't do what I want. So that's why I'm more likely to prefer a solid backend or a robust backend, a real backend. So what's interesting here is JavaScript in the backend. I know I mentioned a lot about JavaScript, but what I'm trying to get at is with JavaScript, we get this full stack compatibility. So with this, we can sort of allow our front-end developers or mobile app developers to also develop the backend, which is great. If you have a small team, you don't necessarily need these niche developers. It's better that everyone can do a little bit of everything in this initial phase. So JavaScript is also super scalable, can handle tons of users. It's also got a lot of momentum behind it. The community is very solid. A lot of things are happening. There's so many libraries for it. So JavaScript in the backend is a solid choice these days. Cool. So team, super interesting. Who will build this? Who are we going to include in our dream team to build this? So what I mentioned earlier, I think a good point here is to mention that broad technical knowledge is something that should be premiered instead of niche technical knowledge in this early phase. So having few, since you have a sort of a small workforce, it would be beneficial to have them know quite a lot instead of very specific things. I would also suggest a mixture of junior and senior developers, which would allow your senior developers to sort of coach the junior developers, set up best practices, and help up get a good momentum behind it. But with the junior mixed in, so you can have a more cost-efficient approach. Another thing to consider here is the importance of UX, user experience. It's something that's often disregarded, or at least something that's considered very easy. It is super tough, it's super complicated, and it should be considered as such, and it's an important role to have in a team as well. We're going to get back a little bit more into a concrete team example in our case. So, personality-wise, what personality traits are important in our team? I really like to work with people who are bold. I think that's a great personality trait. I think people should be able to challenge everything, question everything, and it should be discussed openly. That also goes in line with the next point. So having communicative people is so important. And of course, they should be knowledgeable. They should know what they're doing. Another great personality trait is being flexible. So I know these days with the corona lurking upon us, things are happening fairly rapidly and changing. So in that regard, we need someone who can adapt to this. And this is often true. I mean, regardless of corona in the startup world, things are changing. You need flexible people. And the alignment of vision and goals. I think this is also so relevant. So understanding why you're doing something. So describing to your team that this is what we're trying to accomplish instead of telling them what to do. I think that's great, because that will allow them to sort of use these personality traits by being bold and by being communicative. You can sort of understand the vision better. All right, great. So infrastructure, the Voldemort of software development. So the reason why I say that is, of course, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's something that we don't want to talk about. It's something that's there, but we need it. So it runs our code. It's what sort of powers everything. It powers the engine you can consider. And there are a couple of different options, so a couple of different routes we can go here. I'm going to briefly go through a couple of them and what they mean. In this slide, you can see I sort of included three circles. And what they mean is that the largest circle, infrastructure as a service, allows you to have the maximum amount of flexibility, the maximum amount of power over your infrastructure. And it sort of goes down from there. So quickly, infrastructure as a service is sort of, you can rent machinery from Google or from Amazon or from all of these different cloud providers. They will provide you with infrastructure with virtual servers. And you can sort of manage them on your own. This allows you to have this complete flexibility in your environment. It's incredibly powerful, but it also sort of, it requires a lot from you. It's a lot more complexity than the other choices. So this is not necessarily a great choice in an MVP phase, unless you have people very knowledgeable within this. Might be a good idea. So the next option is platform as a service. So platform as a service, you can think of this more as I'm putting my code inside a box and I'm just sending it off to Google and Amazon, and they will manage it for you. They will see that, oh, cool, this is a JavaScript app, or this is a Python app, or this is that type of app, and they will run this for you. A great option if you want to get going. And the final one is serverless. So serverless is more like, think of this as small pieces of code, which you sort of also send to the cloud, but it's not necessarily as complete as platform as a service. It's more, you pay for every single time the code runs. So it quickly can get fairly expensive. It's cost efficient, but it can get very expensive if you're facing a very high load. But not as flexible as building platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. Cool. So what are your considerations for infrastructure? What should you think about? So keep the cost down in the initial phase. Build for scale, but within reason. I know this is a difficult balance. That's why I think platform as a service is a great option in MVP phase. But also trust in your team. What do they know? What do they feel comfortable with? But I think in an initial phase, you shouldn't spend too much time on this. Focus on product, focus on building the maximum amount of business value instead of this. Next, analytics. So your best advisor in building your products, essentially. So analytics, you all have probably heard of it. You all probably use it in maybe Google Analytics or your software. I want you to use this in your MVP as well. Immediately collect that data, because it can't be retroactively added. So start collecting immediately, because this will help you answer questions such as, how are people using your product? And should you make any changes to your product? And what type of changes? So this data is incredibly important in creating the optimal product. Okay, so what tools can we use and how should we go about this? So I've divided this into two sections. So this is, the first part is quantitative data. So quantitative data, think of this more like numerical data. This is for example, like Google Analytics I mentioned, or Mixpanel or Amplitude. We gather data using events. These events can be statistically analyzed. We can create graphs. We can be quantified. The next part would be qualitative data. So this is data that is more, think of this, I like to picture this as a recording of what our user is doing. It helps us answer questions like why are they doing this? So a quick brief of quantitative tracking. I'm not going to go into I'm going to talk about lean analytics this time. I'm just going to mention this quickly. So quantitative tracking, think of this as event-based. So for example, when a user visits a page, or when you click a button, or when you change a payment option, all of these trigger events. And these events are then captured and fed into, for example, Google Analytics or Mixpanel. So these events can also contain additional data. For example, if you want to answer certain questions, we can figure out what type of customers are changing their shipping method in the checkout. This can help us answer these questions because we can tag these events with additional information. So for example, if you look at my slide, which I've added here, this is an example of a funnel which we can use to create in for example, Google Analytics. This helps us understand why people are dropping out in our, for example, this is an e-commerce site. When you move into the shipping section, we can see that for each step in the funnel, we're losing a little bit of people. So we can sort of understand that. We don't know why, but we understand that it happens. And in each step, we're losing a few people. Great. So the final point, start with view-based tracking. It's incredibly simple, but it helps you immensely in your process. Cool. So qualitative tracking, like I mentioned, we can consider this as a recording. So for example, I've recorded the Ventures website in the slide here, and this is sort of how these tools work. You can look at the user session and understand what's happening, where are they clicking, why are they doing things. So, for example, the cart option, or the cart example that I mentioned, we understand that people are leaving when they've selected shipping, but why are they leaving? If we have this sort of recording approach, we can see that, okay, maybe they don't understand where this button is, or maybe this is not super clear in our shipping description. Cool, and also start implementing this immediately. Very, very simple, but will help you a lot. All right, so looping back a little bit to the case that Joachim mentioned, Parents Rescue, shipping out baby products on a subscription basis. How should we go about this? So a suggestion for their tech stack would be something in line with what we discussed. I'm going to make some assumptions here, but I think these type of users would like to use a mobile app. They would like to easily be able to open it and navigate through it. So with that in mind, I would use something like React Native. Great framework using JavaScript. This allows you to also write, we can write this once and it will run on Android and it will also run on iOS, which helps us go to market a lot faster, and it will also help us reduce costs. Great, JavaScript based, awesome. Nice, and the next part is backend. JavaScript once again with Express.js, which is a framework. Using Node is sort of, consider this your engine that powers Express.js. So these technical choices will hopefully allow our developers to jump in between the React Native part and the backend, jump in between the front and the backend, and keep a high pace in our development. So next part, super cool. Now we're going to talk about the suggested team setup for Parents Rescue. So what should this include? It should include, in my head at least, one product owner. It should include one UI UX designer. It should also include one full stack senior developer. Full stack means you do backend and frontend. And it should also include one full stack junior developer. Great. So I'm not going to go into a full Scrum and Agile definition of what a product owner is, but you can think of this as your project manager, for example. It's a person that helps you keep track on what's important right now, what should we prioritize, and who's doing what, essentially. UI UX helps you design things, helps you think of why should people do this, how should we guide them in our software. And I just want to stress also that this doesn't need to be full-time employees. It doesn't need to be employees at all. It can be consultants or freelancers, whatever. These are just the roles that I think are sort of great or necessary to create a nice and great MVP. Cool. So looping back to analytics. So here, since we're using a React Native app, we can include immediately Google Analytics. So just embed this great software immediately, and we have view-based tracking. You don't have to do anything else than that. It will allow us to analyze this data and understand what our users are doing and where are we losing them, are we losing them, these type of things. I would also, for this case, I would also add tracking for a few basic events, maybe just like when you sign up or when you log in, maybe, or when you do a subscription change, for example. We want to know this. So these are the type of data we want to collect. And for a simple suggestion for infrastructure, like I mentioned previously, platform as a service where Google App Engine will slot in nicely. It's very easy to get started. It's easy to scale. It's close to no maintenance at all for your developers. However, it can get quite expensive if you try to scale it a lot, but it will at least help you get going very fast. So, I mean, the final point is just focus on product, not on infrastructure in this initial phase. Because I think that will give you the maximum amount of value. So, in summary, what did we talk about? We talked a little bit about tech stack, what it is, front and back end, if you remember. We talked a little bit about how to go about choosing this. We talked a little bit about team, who's involved in creating your MVP. Very, very important. We talked also a little bit about infrastructure. It's a necessary topic. And we also talked about analytics, finally. Yes, that's it for me. I think we do have some questions from the chat room, so I'm going to invite my colleagues back in here, Clara and Joachim.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Johan. And what a nice vibe and presentation.
Okay, so we got some questions here, 2 questions now. And we will start with a question from Robert asking, I'm getting global interests for my product but can't get the right development partners to finish my product. Would this partnership between your two companies be the ideal setup for the situations like mine?
Well, first of all, Robert, congratulations. You must have done a really good job.
Sure.
Well, and to answer your question, well, I can mainly speak for ventures, of course, but we work a lot with early stage companies, but also as a growth partner. So in order to scale, you need a lot of different, now I lost the word. You need a lot of different capabilities in that teams, like growth hackers and so on. So that is a challenge we would love to accept. And also together with Antler, of course, we share the same vision. We have a slightly different approach how to get to that vision of ours. But most definitely, I would say that you shall talk to both of us, and we will see what the perfect match is for you. Because yeah, the most important thing is that we build successful companies, and then we see how to work together in the best way.
Absolutely. Reach out to us for sure.
Super interesting.
Yes, good. So next one is from Marina, is telling us amazing presentation. Thank you for that. Could you please explain what is a roadmap from a good idea to a successful product?
Well, shall I?
I think so. That's more your area.
Yeah, it's more my area. Definitely, it covers a lot. The roadmap from idea to what was it? To what was the final destination in this case?
To a successful product. Roadmap from a good idea to a successful product.
All right. Well, in the very beginning, it's all about gather as much information as possible. You remember that cycle, right? So start with a canvas. I really encourage you to do so because it gives you a nice overview of the information that you currently have in mind, and you start to challenge that. And whatever you do, don't go forward without talking to your future customers. Don't do that mistake. So that's the first thing you shall do. Validate the problem, validate the solution, pretty much cycle through all these different stages that Lean Analytics provides us with. But successful company, it goes further than that. It goes further than we talked about today. We covered many steps, many things today, but not all either. It's also part to do a good like mock-ups and wireframes in the beginning and include customers in that. Do as much as possible before you have no alternative than to go forward and launch something and start elaborate with that with real customers. But afterwards, yeah, you need a great network for sure. You need to get out there. You need a good launch strategy, how to get these first, like you need different cohorts so you can try out, okay, we did a change, like try to get 100, 200 users in the beginning if it is a B2C product, or just a few if it's a B2B. Not too big ones either, because they want the world from you and it's easy to drown, like good sized B2B customers. But from that, yeah, be out there, always listen to customers, go out to different events, try to network as much as possible, because that will open up your world. But it's a hard question to answer without really defining what company you're trying to
We
build.
have one more question here from Marina.
Yeah.
So regarding native mobile applications and React Native, which one is better to use when building MVP and why? Is there any difference?
Yes, so using native, or rather developing native applications is beneficial in some applications. I think the limitation you will see is when you're trying to do quite complex things. Say, for example, you're trying to draw out complex 3D animations or doing AR or VR, for example. You will see some limitations in React Native in terms of performance, perhaps. But in most cases, I think React Native would be an excellent choice in MVP, since you can just develop one code base and it will be suitable for both. But if you have a very specific case or a complex application, you might have to develop it in a native language. So develop it separately for Android and iOS.
Okay, yeah, and then we got some comments here. Great presentation. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you.
And yes, it was no more questions now. Yes, thank you again. Great presentation. And yeah, you find our contacts below here in the info box, so you can just send us an email or.
For sure.
And also, as we said, we tried to cram in a lot of information in a short time span here, and we didn't cover more than tip of the iceberg. So if you're interested in any specific areas, it could be anything, so how to, as you mentioned, how to do this KPI, this analytics, more detailed version. Come up, we have a form, go into our website, use the form, either if you're interested to work with us or if you're interested in getting more information about a specific area, and we do another webinar just about that. So that would be super good information for us, so we know what you would like to know more about.
And now we got one more question here, and maybe you can read it for me because I'm not a technical person. That one.
Right. How about Bootstrap and jQuery for rapid development? Yes, I think Bootstrap is fine. I think Bootstrap is quite nice. It has quite a lot of components. It's getting a little bit dated, but it could work. I would still, if I were to suggest something, I would use something like Material UI or Materialize or something like that, a little bit more modern. But regarding jQuery, I think that would be a poor choice if you're starting from scratch. If you have some sort of legacy project and left with jQuery, you don't have that much choice. But if you're starting from scratch, use something new. jQuery is quite cumbersome to work with. It's quite difficult to create solid code. So you look into React, better DOM manipulation software for sure. So I would suggest React, definitely.
Good answer.
Yes.
Anything more happening there at the comment side?
We got some comments here. It was good presentation. I only have one comment on the statistic. It's 2014, and I'm sure a lot of things changed since.
Definitely, and also, actually, it was a survey that was made in 2019 based on companies that was founded in 2014. If you are thinking about reasons to why company fails. And also, that's just one survey. You can go to a lot of different destinations and find different answers. But what we can be sure about is that, yeah, companies, they do fail due to wrong reasons here. But of course, everything changes each and every day.
For sure, and I think that's also the case for tech, right? It's a fast-moving field. So if you feel like I said something that you don't agree with, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to discuss it with you, and we can talk about it. So please feel free to do so.
Yes, and one more here. Good presentation, guys. Thank you. Will we have access to the slides for further reference?
Yes, we have a link, right?
Yes, in the info box below you can find a link and you can sign up, and then we can send it to you.
Of course.
Great.
I love that a lot of things happen there in the end.
Yes.
It's like
Yes, a lot of questions.
The ketchup effect.
Yes.
But more questions. As I said, go into our website, submit, ask all the questions you might have, and we might do a webinar about it, or we take a meeting. We'd love to talk to you.
Yes.
And yeah, stay safe.
Yes,
And,
stay very safe.
Yeah, and enjoy spring, everyone. Out in nature. So cool. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in.
And thank you, Victoria, if you're still with us. Otherwise, we talk soon again.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.